Cleopatra, the queen who seduced two empires. Did you know that the last pharaoh of Egypt was not a born Egyptian, but a Greek queen who ruled with beauty sharper than a blade and wit brighter than any crown? Her name was Cleopatra, the woman whose charm bent two of Rome's greatest men to her will. The woman who turned the fading sands of Egypt into the stage for one of history's most unforgettable love stories. Let's float back to the burning heart of Alexandria in the 1st century before Christ. The air hums with the scent of sea salt and lotus flowers. The city glitters with marble palaces and golden domes. Alexandria, the jewel of the Mediterranean, the capital of Egypt, and the cradle of Cleopatra's destiny. She was born in 69 BCE into the royal Ptolemaic dynasty, a family of Macedonian Greeks who had ruled Egypt since the days of Alexander the Great. Her father was Ptolemy XII, a man known more for his weakness than his wisdom. The dynasty was rich but unstable. Corruption grew like ivy around the throne. Egypt had wealth, it had land, but it was drowning under the influence of Rome. From her earliest days, Cleopatra learned that survival in her family meant more than royal blood. It meant strategy, it meant speech. It meant the art of appearing soft while wielding iron beneath silk. While her siblings played with jewels, Cleopatra studied languages and philosophy. She became fluent in Greek, Egyptian, Hebrew, and several tongues of the Eastern world. She was the first of her family to speak to her people in their own language. That alone made her different. Let's step into the palace corridors of her youth. Marble floors echo with footsteps of servants and whispers of betrayal. Her father, desperate to keep the throne, bends before Roman officials. Cleopatra watches and learns. She sees that Egypt's crown now rests on the patience of Rome, and she vows never to kneel as her father did. When her father dies, Cleopatra is just 18. She inherits the throne with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. But the Egyptian court is not kind to women who lead. The ministers and generals rally behind her brother. Soon Cleopatra finds herself stripped of power and forced into exile in the deserts of Syria. But Cleopatra is not the kind of queen who waits for rescue. She is the kind who writes her own rescue. News reaches her that Julius Caesar, the most powerful man in Rome, has arrived in Alexandria to settle Egypt's royal dispute. She knows that one move could change her fate forever. Let's drift now to the palace gates of Alexandria. The night is heavy with silence. Soldiers guard every entrance. Yet somewhere in the dark, a small boat glides through the harbor. Inside it, wrapped in a rug, lies a woman. Cleopatra, smuggled past the guards. Hidden like a secret waiting to explode. The rug is carried into Caesar's chamber. It unrolls, and from its folds emerges the young queen. She stands before him, eyes calm, lips curved in a quiet smile. History remembers that moment as more than bold. It was a masterstroke. Caesar, known for his cunning, meets a woman whose charm is equal to his intellect. Within days, Cleopatra and Caesar become allies. Some say lovers. Others say she saw in him not romance but opportunity. With his support, she regains her throne. Her brother Ptolemy drowns in the Nile during the civil war that follows. Cleopatra becomes the sole ruler of Egypt. Let's pause and look around her court now. The queen sits beneath a canopy of gold. Roman envoys bow before her. The people hail her as the new Isis, the living goddess of Egypt. Yet she knows her throne still rests upon a fragile balance. Rome's power looms like a shadow across her empire. Cleopatra bears a son with Caesar, whom she names Caesarion. The little one is the living link between Egypt and Rome. She believes he will secure her dynasty's future, but fate begins to twist again. In 44 BCE, Julius Caesar is assassinated in Rome. The news strikes like a storm over Alexandria. Cleopatra's world trembles. Her protector, her ally, the father of her child is gone. Rome sinks into chaos once more, and new powers rise from the ashes. Let us drift over the sea now to the heart of Rome, where the Senate burns with tension. Caesar's killers claim they have saved the Republic, but Caesar's loyal generals prepare for vengeance. Among them stands a man who will soon meet Cleopatra and alter history again. His name is Mark Antony. Antony, the warrior of Rome, bold, charismatic, and reckless. He controls the eastern provinces and soon demands Cleopatra's presence to answer for her loyalty to Caesar. But Cleopatra knows how to turn accusation into invitation. She decides to meet him not as a subject, but as a goddess reborn. The stage is set for one of history's grandest entrances. The year is 41 BCE. The river Kidnus in Tarsus glows under the summer sun. Roman soldiers line the banks waiting for the queen's arrival. Then from the mist, a golden barge drifts forward. Its sails shimmer with purple silk. Silver oars strike the water in rhythm. The air fills with the scent of incense and music of flutes. There she stands upon the deck dressed as the goddess Aphrodite, her face serene, her eyes luminous. Mark Antony, the hardened general, stands frozen on the shore. The trap is set without a word. Cleopatra had not come to plead. She had come to conquer hearts once more. As her ship glides closer, time seems to slow. The people of Tarsus whisper that the goddess of love herself has returned. Antony smiles, but it is the smile of a man already ensnared. That meeting marks the beginning of a union that will shake empires. Cleopatra and Antony dine together that night. The wine flows, the torches flicker. Stories and laughter fill the hall. Each sees in the other not just passion, but power. He commands Rome's legions. She commands Egypt's wealth. Together they could rule the world. Cleopatra the queen who seduced two empires. Let's drift back to the night air of Tarsus. Torches glow upon marble columns. The scent of roses and wine lingers. Cleopatra sits beside Mark Antony, and their laughter ripples across the hall like music. In that moment, two worlds meet. Rome's fiercest general and Egypt's most brilliant queen. Antony is captivated, not just by her beauty, but by her confidence. Cleopatra does not flatter him as others do. She teases him, challenges him, makes him feel both mortal and immortal at once. She speaks of Egypt's wealth, of her fleets, and of her gods. She reminds him that Rome may command the land, but Egypt commands the soul of the Nile. As the nights turn into days, Antony's heart bends toward her. He forgets the sharp politics of Rome and drifts into the luxury of Alexandria. There, Cleopatra welcomes him with open arms and endless feasts. The palace becomes a playground of laughter and gold. They form a private society called Asterisk, the inimitable Livers Asterisk, a circle devoted to pleasure and wit. Let's wander through their halls. Silver goblets shimmer under oil lamps. Musicians play soft melodies. Perfume fills the air. Cleopatra and Antony dress as gods and walk among their guests like divine lovers. The people whisper that the queen has bewitched him, but Cleopatra knows better. It is not magic. It is mastery. While Antony stays in Egypt, Rome begins to stir. His rival, Octavian, the adopted son of Julius Caesar, grows stronger by the day. He watches from the west as Antony loses himself in Cleopatra's world. Whispers of scandal reach the Senate. They say Antony has fallen under the queen's spell, that he has abandoned Rome for the temptations of the East. But Antony does return. The call of Rome cannot be ignored. Cleopatra remains in Alexandria, waiting. Years pass and power shifts again. Antony marries Octavia, Octavian's sister, in a political truce meant to calm the storm. Cleopatra hears the news in silence. She understands that alliances in Rome are like tides. They change without warning. Still, the bond between Antony and Cleopatra does not break. He returns to her once more. This time, not as a lover seeking escape, but as a ruler seeking an empire. Together, they dream of a new order. Rome and Egypt joined under their rule. Their children raised as heirs to the east. Let's float to the heart of Alexandria again. Antony sits upon a golden throne beside Cleopatra. They host the Asterisk donations of Alexandria Asterisk, a ceremony that shakes the world. In front of the crowd, Antony declares Cleopatra the Queen of Kings. He gives her and their children vast territories from Syria to Libya. The people cheer, but in Rome, outrage erupts. Octavian sees this as a betrayal. He calls Antony a traitor. He claims Cleopatra is using him to carve out an empire against Rome. The Senate's patience breaks. War begins to rise like a storm over the horizon. Cleopatra, ever the strategist, prepares her fleet. Egypt's ships are sleek and strong, their sails white as the desert sun. Antony commands legions loyal to him. Together they gather their forces at the western coast of Greece. Across the sea, Octavian's navy waits. The year is 31 BCE, the place is Actium. Let's stand upon the deck of Antony's flagship. The sea is calm but tense. The air smells of salt and fire. Cleopatra stands beside him, her eyes fixed on the horizon. The sun glints on the Roman sails. Trumpets echo across the waves. The Battle of Actium begins. At first, Antony's fleet holds its ground. His soldiers fight with courage. Cleopatra's ships hold steady. But confusion spreads as Octavian's tactics unfold. His smaller, faster ships outmaneuver Antony's grand vessels. Smoke covers the sea. The noise of battle shakes the sky. And then, in the midst of chaos, Cleopatra makes a desperate choice. Her fleet turns south. Her sails catch the wind. She retreats toward Egypt. Antony sees her ships vanish into the horizon. Without hesitation, he abandons the battle to follow her. That single act seals his fate. His fleet collapses. His men surrender. The dream of ruling two empires sinks beneath the waves. Let's float over the dark sea now. The smoke clears. The water glimmers with broken oars and shattered pride. Antony and Cleopatra sail back to Egypt in silence. Their world has changed. The power of Rome now belongs to Octavian. And he is coming for them. Months pass. The lovers retreat into the walls of Alexandria. They try to rebuild, but hope fades like the evening light. Cleopatra still wears her crown, still greets her people with grace. Yet she feels the weight of destiny closing in. Antony is restless. He knows Octavian's armies will soon reach their gates. When Rome's legions arrive, the final act begins. The city of Alexandria trembles. The streets fill with soldiers. The palace becomes a fortress. Antony's forces are outnumbered. His allies have vanished. He stands upon the walls and looks out to sea, where once Cleopatra's golden barge shone in triumph. The battle is swift. Antony's defenses crumble. His loyal men fall. He believes Cleopatra is dead, that she has taken her own life. Broken and defeated, Antony turns his sword upon himself. But Cleopatra lives. When she hears the news, she runs to him. She finds him bleeding, his strength fading. She lifts him in her arms, tears silent upon her face. They speak no grand words, only whispers that vanish between heartbeats. Antony dies in her embrace. The Queen of Egypt now stands alone. Rome has won. Octavian enters Alexandria in victory. He spares her life, but only for now. She is to be taken to Rome as a trophy, a chained queen for the triumph parade. Cleopatra knows that fate is worse than death. Cleopatra the queen who seduced two empires, let's drift now into the quiet chambers of the royal palace. The war is over. Alexandria lies in Roman hands. The streets that once echoed with music and life are silent beneath the boots of foreign soldiers. Cleopatra sits alone beside a marble column, her face calm, her eyes distant. The queen who once dined with gods now faces the end of her mortal reign. Octavian waits in the next hall. He has conquered the richest land on earth, yet still feels uneasy. Cleopatra is no ordinary captive. Her presence alone carries power. Her silence weighs heavier than the swords of his legions. He plans to take her to Rome, to parade her through the streets as the fallen queen of the East, a symbol of his triumph. But Cleopatra knows she will never be paraded. Let's move closer into her thoughts. The flicker of a torch glows against the wall. She remembers the days of her youth, the laughter in her father's court, the marble halls filled with voices of scholars and poets. She remembers Caesar's sharp gaze, Antony's laughter, and the gentle waves of the Nile beneath her golden barge. Her life has been a tapestry of love, power, and destiny. And she will end it on her own terms. She sends for Octavian. When he enters, she greets him not as a prisoner, but as a queen. Her voice calm, her posture regal. She pleads only for one thing, that her son, Caesarion, be allowed to rule Egypt in peace. Octavian listens but gives no answer. Deep down, she knows the boy's fate is already sealed. Rome will never allow another Caesar to live. As Octavian leaves, Cleopatra feels time closing in. She gathers her most loyal servants, Iris and Charmian. They know what must be done. The three women speak softly, their words lost beneath the sound of the evening breeze. Let's float over the gardens of the palace. The air hums with the rustle of palm leaves. Somewhere among the fruit baskets and flowers lies a small woven basket. Inside it, hidden beneath figs and leaves, rests an asp, a symbol of royalty and death. Cleopatra has chosen the ancient way of Egyptian queens. She reclines upon her bed, dressed in gold and white linen. The scent of lotus fills the air. She takes the serpent in her hand. The moment is quiet, almost peaceful. She feels its cool scales against her skin. The bite comes swift and gentle. A thin mark upon her arm, nothing more. She closes her eyes. The poison spreads. Her breathing slows. The Queen of Egypt slips away not in fear, but in calm resolve. Around her, the chamber glows in candlelight. Iris falls beside her. Charmian follows soon after. When the Roman guards enter moments later, they find the three women lying together, serene as marble statues. Cleopatra is gone. The last pharaoh has met her end as she lived, with dignity, defiance, and grace. Let's drift now beyond the walls of the palace. The Nile flows endlessly, as it has for thousands of years. The people mourn their queen. In the years that follow, Egypt becomes a Roman province. The temples fall silent. The old gods fade into memory, but Cleopatra's story endures. Octavian becomes Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. He orders that Cleopatra be buried beside Antony, honoring her final wish. Together they rest in a tomb somewhere near the ancient harbor of Alexandria. Their grave has never been found. Some say it lies beneath the sea. Others say the desert swallowed it long ago, yet her spirit lives on. In every story told by poets, in every painting of her golden barge, in every whisper of her name through time, Cleopatra remains the eternal queen, the woman who ruled not by armies but by brilliance, the woman who stood against the might of Rome and left a mark no empire could erase. Let's float once more down the Nile at sunset. The waters shimmer with gold. The breeze carries the memory of her reign. For centuries to come, her legend will ripple through history like the river that shaped her land. Cleopatra, daughter of the Nile, queen of kings, the last pharaoh of Egypt. The woman who seduced two empires and outlived them both in story. And so ends the tale of Cleopatra, the queen who turned her life into legend.